Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are finishing chapter 9 of book 3, which is Law of Equality. And we are on question 817, equal rights for men and women. Before we start, let us remind ourselves that this book was written in 1857. So the theory of equality amongst all human beings, not only men and women, but also all human beings, was a concept that was very advanced for the time. So, of course, it would encounter a lot of resistance, and we are 170 years later, and still we have the equality in law, but not in practice in many times, and not in law in a few places also. But let's see what the spirits told us in 1857. Okay, Philip.
Equal rights for men and women. Are men and women equal in God's eyes, and do they have the same rights? Has God not given them both the knowledge of good and evil and the ability to advance?
Yeah, the spirits answer with another question, right? That all spirits are created simple and ignorant, simple and unaware, and evolve through both paths, being men and women in different incarnations. So with the knowledge of good and evil and the ability to advance. So we are all equal. That's the answer from the spirits.
This answer is very significant because it eliminates all the other things that you may use to make the equality. Physical strength, ability of do this or that thing. Everything else is disregard from the spirit. The only thing that is important is these things, the knowledge of good and evil and the possibility of advancement. That's what really matters, and that's where the equality stays.
Okay, thanks.
818?
Yeah.
Where does the moral inferiority of women in some countries originate? In the cruel and unjust authority that man has seized over them. This is a result of social institutions and the abusive exercise of strength over weakness. Among morally inferior men, might makes right.
Yeah, it's interesting. The spirits are very strong in the answer here, right? This is a result of abusive exercise of strength over weakness. It's a cruel and unjust authority that man has seized over them. Morally inferior men. So the spirits really are very direct. This is sign of inferiority, right? Those that think they are superior to others, and it applies to also to races, to anything that one may think that they are superior to another, right? In terms of races, in terms of place of birth, in terms of men, women, or applies also nowadays over sexual preferences, all those things that still create so much controversies nowadays. We are all equal. We all make choices. We have to go through different experiences. A spirit does not have gender, does not have sex. A spirit, when it reaches perfection, it's not one side or the other. Of course, you may think of Jesus, right? As perfect spirit that incarnated on earth. Well, he was He was a man when he was incarnated. Of course, at the time that he came, if he was a woman incarnated as a woman, he wouldn't be able to do anything that he has done, right? He had to be incarnated as a man to be able to walk, to disseminate his teachings, right? And he had to be followed. He was mostly followed by the apostles, which are also men, but there are many important women that follow Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Joan of Cusa, previous incarnation of Joanna de Angelis. And when Jesus was there crucified, only the women were in the cross besides John the evangelist, right? So again, we are going to talk and repeat and talk a lot about this again, right? There are no differences. Differences are the result of moral inferiority of those that make the choices.
(819).
Yes.
Why women are physically weaker than men are, so that she may be assigned special functions. Men are built for rough work as they are stronger. Excuse me. While women are built for lighter work. Both may help each other through the trials of a bitter life.
Yes. You may ask why men and women have different physical constitution, right? It's God created us to reach perfection. And for our journey, we need to grow morally and intellectually. And in order to grow morally and intellectually, we need different experiences. So the division, and again, we are talking about 1857 when women really worked. If they had to work, they worked as inside the houses, or as they were very poor women at that side that worked outside, worked selling things in the markets, things like that. But mostly it was a much clearer division than we have nowadays. Men are physically stronger, women are physically weaker in general. Now, when we come from there to today, that those differences are being reduced. The opportunities are being less divisive, right? Divisive. But still, there are differences, right? And the objective is for us to have different experiences being man and being woman, right? Different abilities, the brain is developed differently. But in the end, these are good experiences for us. The problem is always when we abuse our strength, or our mental strength or physical strength, and we impose our will over others. So we are here to learn through different experiences, and it was always the function of throughout times, and again, we're talking about 50,000 years, men going out and trying to provide, and women raising the children, which woman gives birth to the children, so it falls on her the responsibility. And you see that in animals, right? Even in animals, until the offsprings are developed enough to move away from the mother, they are dependent on the mother, with a few exceptions like the penguins, right? So it is the natural law, it's God's law. And every time we try to deviate from God's law, we are creating difficult consequences for ourselves. But a woman trying to do a man's work and vice versa, it's not deviating from God's law. Abusing what your abilities to take advantage of others is what creates responsibilities, right?
João, I was reading an article in education, but it's like the way the kids are raised since they were little. Like why the boys need to play only with cars, with construction tools and stuff like that, and the girls, all the toys are not only matter of colors of the toys, but why they only give the girls things to do at home, things to do at the kitchen, and I remember when my kids were little, like I would like to find something that I could like give a car for my daughter and and not a doll for my son, but more like stuff. We could not find anything that color related or neutral colors, let's to say.
Yeah, this is still our old age prejudices that we are still carrying right now. If you allow them to play with what they want, most girls will choose to play with dolls and things like that, and most boys will prefer to play with balls and things because they are different, right?
I agree.
Naturally. But what you shouldn't try to do is to block the possibilities of them doing the other things, right? Because that's what creates traumas and creates problems, right? If you look, they say children are born without prejudices, right? They become racist because adults become racist because they were raised like that, because they live in a society that incentivizes. And in the same way, I think if you allow boys and girls to play with whatever they want, there is a natural tendency of boys to be rough, to be more aggressive, because that's in the nature of boys, and girls be more soft, because that's in the nature, the majority, but there are exceptions. The problem is that we discriminate the exception and we create problems with the discrimination. But in terms of how they prefer to play, well, girls develop their brain earlier than boys. Boys are they remain dumber for a longer time than girls, right? And it is how it is. It's the development, natural development, right? So we need to try to eliminate the differences as much as possible, but respecting their natural abilities, right? I had a yes, Danny.
I have seen myself in a pre-K classroom, 4-year-olds, in which they had the PlayStations in the room, and boys would be playing with the dolls and in the kitchen area or the household area with other girls, and the teacher took this natural, event that they were from their own wills to talk about fathers, like taking care of family, being in the kitchen. So she, very subtle, in a subtle way, she would bring up that fathers also have to take care of their kids, right? Not necessarily changing diapers, but developing this knowledge that it's a family, right? The woman and the man, the father and the mother. And several students from the classroom, the father would pick them up, would drop them off, would make them the lunch in the morning. So they were seeing probably the boys who were maybe exploring the areas where mostly girls go, is because maybe at home they were seeing their fathers help cooking dinner, grocery shopping. So it can be a wonderful opportunity for boys to develop things that the much later they have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, agree.
8:19.
Yep.
Why women are physically weaker than men are, so that she may be assigned special functions.
Didn't
Men
we?
are,
We did that already. Sorry. Say 20.
sorry,
Yeah. 8:20.
does a woman's physical weakness make her naturally dependent on a man? God has given strength to some to protect the weak, but not to reduce them to slavery and suppression. God has created the physical makeup of each being for the role it has to carry out. God has given less physical strength to women. However, they were made more sensitive in harmony with their maternal functions and the weaknesses of the beings confided to her care.
Yeah. Again, women in general are weaker physically than men. And has always been in history, men protecting women, right? Men protecting the house. And until today, right, we have this notion that the men are responsible for protecting the home, right? I learned from a friend that the ultra-Orthodox Jew, how they divide the marriage is that from the door out, the father is responsible for everything. From the door in, the mother is responsible for everything. Which again, it's a division that was they are ultra orthodox, or they are the ones that have all the rules and regulations. But where did this come from? From their historical evolution and all the commandments and everything, and their interpretation, or a rabbi's interpretation of how it should be, right? So you'll find everywhere, right? You'll find in the tribes, you'll find in the more primitive societies, but the more advanced societies, you start seeing more equality between men and women. You go to the more advanced countries, and you see much more equality amongst men and women in terms of work, in terms of functions in the house, the parents taking care of children. I read the other day that I think it was, I don't know if it was Sweden or Norway, that passed a law right now that the fathers now have the same time as the mother when they have a baby. Both stay out of the work until both can come back to work.
That's controversy. I don't know if I agree with that.
Again, I'm not saying it's
birth. I think that's a little tricky there, right?
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that it's moving into the direction of equality, right? Of course, absolute equality is not possible because we are different. So maybe they'll do that and they'll change their mind in some years and see that doesn't work as efficient as it should. But you have to find ways to balance both the lives of both parents. But if you ask me, I don't know what's the perfect solution. I just think it's interesting that
when it comes to legislation, in this and that country, it's a lot of things combined to get to that decision. And those countries, they are begging people to have to make babies. They're giving all the incentives for couples to procreate. And that is one more incentive. So you make baby to stay home longer. Maybe that will help.
Yeah.
No, it is. It is a fact.
Yeah.
It's that they have a serious problem with procreation now. Now the population is getting older and older and older. There is no one to work to support the old population anymore. They have to have a baby. That's why there is a huge migration to those areas.
Yeah.
So the law is not only seeking equality, it's a much more complex thing. When it comes to to love equality as a divine law, we're going to see getting closer and closer and closer, and then we understand that there is a physical difference. It's undeniable. It's a fact. It's not an opinion, right? If you take a professional athlete female and myself, the professional athlete is much stronger than I am, right? But if you take two professional athletes, man and woman, the professional athlete male will be much stronger. Period. That's a fact. Okay, because there is hormonal difference. Testosterone builds muscle. It's a fact. Now we're going to progress and understand that the difference is to be complementary. It's for one complement the other. And want what's lacking in one, the one supplies. And this answer explains that very well. Woman is good at certain things naturally. Besides culture, naturally, the men are good at some things. And then there is also culture, which increases or decreases that those natural things the woman has different from men. Unfortunately, when cultures are made by men who seeks to keep control of the situation, they will try to institutionalize those differences, like giving toys that makes boys aggressive and fighting, and almost more, acceptance of facts. Is institutionalized inequality. They're going to be diminished as time goes by.
Yeah. Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
Is a woman's natural role as important as that given to man? Yes, even more so, because she gives him his first notions of life.
So here the spirits are saying that the woman's natural role is even more important than the man, because of course women are responsible for taking care of the first development of the children, most cases, right? So it is a fundamental role that they have that is very important. So if you look at these questions from the point of view of 1857, you can imagine how many people read this and said, no way, this is all wrong, right? That's why it takes a while for this to be accepted. But what they were talking here, it's what we are seeing today, right? The equality in terms of law. Again, women still make less money than men for the same positions. Still a problem nowadays. If the woman is if black, it's even less. So there is a lot of discrimination, unofficial discrimination, and unofficial injustice. But the law, it doesn't protect the unjust. If you try to follow the law, you would have to give equal pay, equal opportunity. But in reality, we're still imperfect spirits, and we try to take advantage of others in any way we can. So one of the ways that the corporate world takes advantage of women is paying less than men. And again, it has reduced a lot. It used to be 50%. Nowadays, on average, is like 80%. So it's getting better, but it will take another 100 years or more to be completely equal, I think. But it's our free will. We are making the choices. Oops, sorry. Jump here, everything. Where are we?
822.
Yes.
As all human beings are equals according to God's law, should they also be such according to human-made law? This is the cornerstone of justice. Do unto others what you want others to do unto you. In order to be perfectly just, should legislation establish the equality of rights between men and women? Equality of rights, yes. But with respect to functions, it should be noted that while there are many similarities between the sexes, there are also distinct differences. Each sex should be encouraged to develop according to their special abilities and strengths. Human-made law to be judged should establish equal rights for men and women. Any privilege granted to either sex conflicts with justice. Women's rights and freedom are in line with the progress of civilization, as her oppression is a condition of barbarism. In addition, gender only exists through the physical makeup. Since spirits can assume that of either sex, there is no difference between them in this respect, and they should enjoy the same rights.
Okay, so this is, this question summarizes everything that we have been discussing here, right? All human beings are equal according to God's law. So they should also be equal according to human-made law. Again, 1857, this was very advanced for the time, right? There were some in the Catholic Church at that time didn't consider women as having a soul, right? So here the spirits are telling us that they are all the same, and the human-made law should be the same for all humans, not even men and women, for all humans. At the time where we still had slaves in many parts of the world, and one thing very important, equally of rights, but you cannot force equal obligations, right? Each one has their own abilities, and each one should be encouraged to develop according to their special abilities and strengths. The Spirit says each sex, but we can say here each one. We spoke about this last week, right? In an ideal world, in a more evolved world, we would work on what we have an ability and vocation to do and get paid similarly to those that work in different places. Of course, there are differences, and as long as we are imperfect spirits and evolving, there'll still be differences. But the reduction of these differences between the pay of a teacher and of a CEO should not be the way it is today, because teachers are very important, and they should be paid according to the work that they do in terms of the importance to society. Until we find the balance between what the ones that do important work and are paid much less than those that do other important works but are remunerated better because of different conditions, we have to try to reduce that. So as they say here, women's right and freedom are in line with the progress of civilization. And you can see that we are progressing. Nowadays, we have laws that make them equal. We don't have it yet 100% in practice, but you can imagine that, this is 170 years. 170 years from today, it's going to be much better. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not yet. But it's going to be much better because we are continue evolving and the law is of progress. So we should see this, with the injustices that we still have. We have to fight against the injustices, but we should see this as progress, as evolution, right? That we are trying to be more to distribute more equality amongst the sexes and amongst the races and everything. Far from being perfect, very far in many cases and places, but moving in the right direction. Okay.
Leadership. Sometimes we see the women being more like sensitive on that side, have more feelings, I would say. How do you see the not the division, but the rate for mediums being men and women?
Yeah, because women in general are more sensible, right? Sensitive.
Yeah, it's not.
It's sensitive, sensitive.
No, that's okay.
They are more open, right? Because men are much more, and again, we're talking general, not specifics, but in general, men are more focused on making money, working, and everything, and women are more open to spirituality. And being more open to spirituality allows them to be more open to mediumship. So men normally, in general, would hide this, would not look for answers, would hide these feelings, will try to avoid facing this. And so, in terms of mediumship, I would say that's probably the same. The abilities on both sides. It's just that women are more open to it, and you end up having more women mediums that you see. But Chico, right?
Yeah.
Vivaldo, Raul Teixeira, right?
If we start putting the list, I would say
Yeah.
my list of men will be a lot longer, but
If you go to the mediumship meetings, you'll have more women mediums than men normally, and I think it's because of this. I don't know, Elmo, if you think differently.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I think there's also a natural desire for women to be more helpful, to do voluntary work. Men will have got to work for free. I think men will be more likely. I think it's already because that institutionalized inequality, woman is more able to offer herself to different labor, to cooperate more, to accept the sacrifice and difficulties involved in being a consistent work in leadership in the spiritual center. I think woman is better at that. Yeah, already. But I think if you're making a real true statistic and everybody being truthful, I think the number of men and women needed would be 50-50. I don't think that is.
that was just crossing my mind
Yeah.
about me.
But a woman dedicates more, is more willing to work, is more willing to do any sacrifice to do the work.
And also, and again,
Escape from home.
It's
yeah. If you think, for instance, Ivone Pereira, she received memoirs of a suicide in the 20s, in the 1920s, right? And she was told, you cannot publish this book, you have to wait. And Chico came right after her, right, in the 30s, and published Nosso Lar and published all the collection. And that allowed her to publish her book in the 50s, 20 years later. If it was the other way around, I don't know, maybe Chico would be able to publish memoirs of a suicide in the beginning of the 30s, because, again, the society looks at men and women differently, right? Unfortunately. So, again, you look at Chico, he was physically a man, but he was a spirit that was as much as a man as a woman, right? In terms of his personality, sensibility, and all these things, right? But he had to come, the same reason Jesus had to come as a man. Chico had to come as a man to be able to push forward what he was supposed to bring, like Kardec, right? Amélie, Kardec's wife, was almost as important as him in the work that he did in all the letters, in taking care and helping him, right? But he had to be a man because, unfortunately, that's what society asks for us. Nowadays, I think we're better, right? I think you can have an incarnation of a Chico as a woman. You have Joana de Angelis as a mentor of Divaldo and all the publications that Divaldo has, and nobody says anything about being a woman, right? So we're moving into the right direction, but
Yeah.
still with some pitfalls on the way. Okay, now equality in death.
823. Where does the desire for immortalizing one's memory through funeral monuments originate? It is the last act of pride. Is the extravagance of funeral monuments more commonly due to relatives who want to honor the memory of their deceased loved ones than to the desire for the deceased themselves? It is an act of pride on the part of relatives who want to glorify themselves. These demonstrations are not always for the deceased. Rather, they gratify their own vanity by making an impression on others and displaying wealth. Do you think that the memory of their loved ones is less strong in the hearts of the poor because they can only place a single flower to lie upon their graves? Do you think that marble can save the name of a person who has led a useless life on earth from oblivion?
Wow. When we talk,
That is a bunch of F's.
when we talk about death, right? Equality in death, we all return to the spiritual world. In what condition we return to the spiritual world depends entirely on our moral and especially on our moral evolution, but of course our intellectual evolution helps also. But to the desire to be immortalized in a tomb or in a monument, right? It's clearly pride, right? The desire to put your name in all places that you can get away with it. What is this? It's an immense act of pride, because those that really more evolved spirits, they don't even want to say their names, right? I was listening the other day to a talk on mediumship, and Jacobson was saying the characteristic of a true evolved spirit when giving a communication is not signing his name or her name, right? Because the message is what counts. Maybe they'll sign the name if it's relevant for the people because of one reason or another, right? Of course, Joana de Angelis had to sign her name on the messages because it was going to be left and people need to look for the works of Joana de Angelis. But a message received by, a group from an evolved spirit, a friendly spirit, will come just like that. The necessity of making your name stand out, it's pride. It's clearly pride, right? Now, families then build these tombs for their loved ones as a way of remembering them and of keeping this connection in many cases. If you think of the Egyptians, they built the pyramids for the pharaohs, right? What was the pyramids for? It's a monument to pay homage to the pharaohs, right? And they thought that the reincarnation that they believed at the time, you would come back with everything that you had, your physical body. That's why they mummified, they buried them with all their belongings and with the slaves, and they killed the slaves and buried with them. So we always had that as human beings, right? This need to want to be remembered in different ways, but it's always a desire to think that we meant something to someone or to a group. So this is something that as we continue evolving, we are going to give less and less importance as we understand that we are eternal spirits and our physical body is like a used cloth that when you no longer need, it goes back to nature. We are going to move away from these needs of pomp, funerals, or things like that. But we're still very far from it, right? The spirits are very strong here when they say, do you think the marble can save the name of a person? who has led a useless life on earth from oblivion. Yeah. I remember reading something on a tomb that I thought it was very important and very funny. It was a tomb of a dog. We talked about animals, right? And in the tomb was written, a small stone was written, "Here to my dearly beloved," and the name of the dog, "who was more faithful to me than my 4 husbands." I think that's, so in the end, we all go back to the spiritual world, and the remembrance of the work that you have done to help others is what really matters, right? I think everyone should want to be remembered by how we were able to be of assistance to others.
I keep asking myself, why does this stuff come at the top of equality? What does it have to do with equality? No, equality is at the end. Yes, the poor who just received, a little hole in the ground and nothing else, and the rich millionaire who got a huge monumentum, I receive equally in the spiritual world according to what they have done during their existence. Otherwise, why is this topic here when you're talking about equality? That there is absolute equality upon death. Everything else is man-made nonsense.
Yeah, it's a good point.
The book of the codification that the queen comes back.
Heaven and hell.
Heaven and hell, yeah, that she comes back to say that the
Where are my
servants were more important than her. So.
Yeah. Danny?
I recently heard an interview with Jane Fonda, the actress. I think she's 85 or 6. And she was saying that she wants to be buried in wrapped in a cloth, no coffin. And because she says that the way we bury our dead people, it's bad for the environment.
Oh.
So there is, yeah. So she's so like just getting back to earth as an organic body.
Yeah. We can talk about cremation, right? Isn't cremation why? Cremation it spends energy, so that's why she doesn't want to be cremated. I don't know. Again, it's individual choices. I think cremation is in my opinion, for me, it's a good way of not leaving anything anywhere, right? But we have our ways of dealing with death in different cultures, different ways, right? And we have to respect the way that each civilization and culture pays respect to their deads and bury their dead. In the book I Came Back, Brother Jacob follows his own burial, right? And he goes to the wake and he goes to his funeral, and he finds some interesting things happening, right? In the wake, people talking bad about him, and he couldn't stand in the way. But I think it's important for us to, as spiritists, to understand the concept of equality in death, but to respect the way that people want to be buried according to their own needs.
824.
Yeah.
Is funeral pomp and circumstance reprehensible under all circumstances? No. It is fair when honoring the life of dignified individuals, and it conveys a good example. The grave is the inevitable end of all human distinctions and the destiny of all human beings. Erecting ostentatious monuments is a vain attempt by wealthy individuals to immortalize the memory of their lives. Time will destroy these monuments as surely as it will destroy their bodies. The memories of their deeds, whether good or bad, are more resistant than their tombs. The pomp of their funerals will neither wash away their immoral actions nor raise them a single step on the ladder of the spirit hierarchy.
Yes. Again, we have to understand the need of the family to pay respects, to show the respect for their loved one that has passed away. So if they need to do a mass, if they need to do a funeral, if they need to find the ways to alleviate their pain or to be close in thought for the one that had departed is all fair, right? What the spirits are telling us here is that, once we return to the spiritual world, anything that we do here for the one that have departed, it's of very little importance. Again, they will feel the good energies, they will feel the love, they will receive all the good vibrations sent to them, but it is not building an ostentatious tomb that you're going to pay homage to these individuals. But funny enough, right? Kardec has a very beautiful tomb in Père Lachaise that I went to visit. It's very nice. Visited by thousands of people every year. So, I'm not sure if he's happy or not happy, but people that go there.
Most flowers.
Yes, the one with most flowers. So again, we are imperfect spirits. We need these sometimes. And again, there's nothing specifically wrong. What is wrong? It's to think that only by going to the tomb you are going to be connected to your loved one. Remember that famous letter that Chico Xavier received from a young man, a boy, a young adult that died, and the parents were desperate, and his father would go every day to the cemetery to sit in the tomb. And then they went to Chico, and Chico received a letter, and he told his father, every day you go to the tomb, and I stay home with mom, helping, consoling her. And so, you see in that letter, you see the non-importance of the tomb, right? You want to have a place, put a remembrance there. It's important. My mother used to love to go to the cemetery. I don't know. It was one funny thing that she had. She will go visit her mother when she was buried, and then her father, then brothers and sisters. For her, it was something that she took pleasure in it, right? Each one with their own ways. So again, we have to respect. And if it's good for your mental health to go and visit your loved one in the cemetery, then go. But understanding in terms of spirituality, understanding that they are not there, for us, it's very important. As we are studying Spiritism, we know that the spirits, their loved ones, can be close to us whenever we are. They definitely won't be in the cemetery if they have the ability to understand about their situation. There are still spirits that stay attached to their physical body in the cemeteries because they don't know what happened. They are not aware. They don't understand that they have died, or they see their physical body and try to understand what's going on. So there is a lot of issues there in those in cemeteries that may not be ideal places for you to find peace of mind, right? But if you go with good intentions and you go with love in your heart, you are going to be protected, of course, of all these bad influences, that spirits that may be floating around in a cemetery. Okay. All right. I don't know if anyone has any comments here because we're not going to go into chapter 10, which is law of freedom. We start next week on that. So I think we did enough for today. Okay. So what we have Saturday, we have a lecture talk by Glaucio Pessoa, The Imperative of Inner Peace, Saturday, 11 a.m. On Sunday, we are going to study the Medium's book. And where are we on the book club, Danny? Book club next Wednesday is chapter 4, Arduous Ascension by Victor Hugo and Divaldo Franco. Okay? Carol, can you do our final prayer? Carol, having trouble unmuting your phone?
Yeah. Sorry, issues with computer. Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together for our studies of the Spirit's book. Book 3, Chapter 9, Equal Rights for Men and Women and Equality in Death. Men and women have different physical strengths, skills, and abilities, so that we may have various experiences as we move toward perfection. Men and women are equals in God's eyes. Eventually, human laws will establish equal rights for men and women. Spirits can assume an incarnation of either gender, and they will progress accordingly to their inclinations and abilities in the future. We all return to the spiritual world. However, pride and vanity is the desire to be remembered on tombs and marble monuments. More importantly, what good will we have done morally and intellectually on earth? Respect others as to their needs, so that they may honor the loved ones who have departed. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center SGNY and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we go forth now and remind ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.